our third speaker, and I have in my notes that you're Mr. Starbuck. You didn't give me your first name, so...
Usually my last name gets me into just about anywhere.
You're too expensive, man.
Yeah, I just love it when the Pete's fans show up. No, I'm Randy Starbuck.
Mr. Starbuck has over 28 years of economic development and redevelopment experience and has served as a consultant on tax, increment, finance, and redevelopment issues. So thank you very much for coming, and turn it over to you.
I'm Randy Starbuck. I'm currently the Business Development Manager for Pittsburgh Power Company, which is the municipal utility arm for the city of Pittsburgh, about an hour down the road here. I have been involved in economic development and redevelopment for close to 30 years now. I had an extensive career in redevelopment, which unfortunately came to an end back in 2009. When I got moved over to the power company, though, it has turned out to be a real career renaissance for me. And one of the things I'd like to talk about today as we discuss the matters of recycling is the avenue we're pursuing is the whole waste to energy concept, where we are looking at our waste stream in a variety of ways to see if we can begin to generate renewable power. We all have heard of the Renewable Portfolio Standard, where 33% of all electricity produced in the state of California has to come from renewable resources by the year 2020. We think the waste to energy path is certainly one avenue for that needs to be explored, and would certainly work in with this conversation, because a number of technologies all around the world are looking at not only the organics in the waste stream, but also the oil-based products that maybe be they plastic bottles or alike. In fact, there's a couple of technologies right now that have successfully taken the drinking water bottles and are reconverting them back into a much cleaner burning form of gasoline. And looking at opportunities like that, particularly in California, is absolutely critical. But let me talk about this from the economic development side. And I could use an anecdote very briefly. On Sunday, I put my son on a plane. He's 24. He flew to Korea, where he is taking a job to teach English as a second language in Korea. The biggest motivation, though, for doing this is he was having trouble just finding a good-paying job that he could sustain himself with here in California. And so he's going over to Korea for a year to do that. And that's unfortunate, because this is a kid who was a summa cum laude graduate at college, and we can no longer be losing our good brain trust to other states or other countries. We have to start creating jobs here. And a key function of that are events just like this, where private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector get together and start talking to one another about how we can do things better. And I think the question was asked, what's the one thing that Sacramento could do to help us? And I think a couple of things that have already been mentioned are very important, but part of that is I think what needs to happen is the staff and the legislators need to get out of Sacramento and out into our communities, and they need to follow the process of what it takes to actually run a recycling entity or even get it permitted here. And I think that would be a tremendous eye-opener. How many are either in or have just recently permitted some type of recycling facility or a facility that's utilizing recycled products and making them here? Anyone here recently do that? All right, keep your hands up. Just want to say, keep your hands up. How many of you in your permitting process did it in less than a year? Less than 2 years? Okay, less than 3 years? One of the things I think is really important is to learn how the regulatory process is impacting the ability just to bring something online and explain all the steps you have to go through in that process. And I think that would be one thing that Sacramento could do that would be very, very helpful. And the second thing I think that we can do, people sitting in this room, is again sit down and begin talking to one another, just like we're doing today, to find out where those opportunities are. And reaching across into the private sector to that recycling company that maybe you don't know, or trying to get in contact with a local economic development office that maybe you've not had the chance to talk with, or reaching out maybe to some state program or some state activity to find out if they have an avenue here, and just begin talking about different ideas. That's how we started getting into waste to energy. Was we just started having a conversation with our local municipal solid waste franchise hauler, and just talking about, we began to realize that we had some similar interests here. And I think that's absolutely critical to creating new opportunities, is beginning to have that discussion. So I think those are the two things. I think that we, both the state and us, each have a role.
Great. Thank you very much, Randy.